We're going to turn now to another Secret Service incident that raises disturbing questions. On October 3rd, 2013, an unarmed African-American mother named Miriam Carey drove to Washington, D.C. from Connecticut with her infant daughter in the back seat. A U-turn at a checkpoint followed by a car chase led to Secret Service agents and Capitol Police firing 26 bullets at her car, eventually killing her. While the shooting deaths of Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown have sparked nationwide protest against police brutality, Carey's case remains shrouded in a fog of misinformation. Initial reports claim she, quote, rammed White House and Capitol barriers, that she tried to breach 2 security perimeters. Those reports have since been proven false. David, let's begin with you in Washington, D.C. Describe that day.
It was a fall day, October 3rd. If you remember, the Capitol was already edgy because just a week or so before there had been the Navy Yard shooting. So everyone was a little bit jittery. At about exactly 2:13 p.m., Miriam Carey drives up to one of the White House security checkpoints with her 13-month-old baby in back and goes through that kiosk. There's no gate there. There's no barrier to ram. She went past a kiosk, was ordered by the Secret Service agents to stop, and she didn't. She made a U-turn and tried to exit, and that's when an off-duty Secret Service agent tried to put up a sort of a bicycle rack-like fence to keep her in, and she did not stop. She sort of hit that, rammed that gate, and continued.
Just on that point, he put up a fence after she drove there to keep her in? Was he in uniform?
He was not in uniform. He was off duty, and he was carrying a cooler that you can, we don't know what was inside. That
you mean
can
like
see
a beer
in pictures.
Cooler?
Well, or a lunch cooler. We don't know what it was. We don't know what was inside it.
So a man, all she saw with her baby in the back seat is she has come into this area, and a man has put up a fence against her, and he's carrying a cooler.
Yes. Yes.
So she pushes through that, and that's the first ramming of a barrier that we heard about that day?
She actually, according to one witness, first tried to steer around it, and then apparently the man, the off-duty officer, repositioned it in front of her, and then she does ram it, and you can see him tumble off the side of her car. And yes, that's something that wasn't clear immediately, and I think it may be not clear even today to some people. The only barrier she rammed that day was the one put up to keep her from leaving this space.
And so what happens next?
Well, that then begins this 7-minute pursuit. She drives straight down Pennsylvania Avenue. If you're aware of the geography of Washington, that's a straight shot to the Capitol. You can see the Capitol from there. And it's unclear how fast she was going. The investigation later said that she covered the distance in 4 minutes. Well, I calculated that it's a 1.3 mile route, and if she did it in 4 minutes, her average speed was about 20 miles an hour. The police said that she was traveling up to 80 miles an hour. Average speed, she could have gone very fast and very slow at some points, but that's sort of one of the things that we don't know. Was this a high-speed chase or what? And she gets to the Capitol reflecting pool. If you recall, in front of the Capitol lawn, there's that giant reflecting pool, and there's a circle, and that's where several Secret Service vehicles catch up with her and hem her in. And this is the video that perhaps the most sensational video that we all have seen. The reason we've seen it is because a media cameraman for the Al Hurra network was on the lawn shooting video. The authorities have released no video from this entire episode, and that's where you can see her hemmed in by cars, and officers, Secret Service officers, are out and pointing their pistols at her, and you can hear them yelling, "Get out of the car!" And she backs her car into one of the vehicles, seemingly, perhaps, we don't know, but it gave her some room to then maneuver out of the situation. The camera turns away, but the soundtrack is still going, and you can hear several shots. We know later that the 8 shots were fired by 2 Secret Service agents and 1 Capitol Police officer, sort of as she was leaving. And that's sort of the second point of encounter in this tragic 7 minutes. And then she continues another, I think, 0.7 miles to the west side of the Capitol, And that is where she's actually trying to leave Capitol Hill, and there's a pop-up barrier all around Washington, all around the Capitol. There are security barriers that can pop up out of the pavement, and she's sort of trying to pass the Capitol, past the Supreme Court, and we don't know where she was going, but there's a barrier there, so she makes a U-turn and comes back. She's actually driving in reverse at this point. And she drives right at I believe a Capitol police officer who has to jump out of her way. That's the second time that her car appears to go straight at an officer. Back at that first encounter, you can see on that videotape an officer scrambling out of the way as she tries to evade them. That happens again up on Capitol Hill, and then two officers, one Secret Service and one Capitol Police, each fire 9 rounds into the car, and she is struck 5 times. It's 7 minutes since she's left the White House. She's unconscious, and she's pronounced dead a half an hour later. Her baby, Erica, is physically unharmed, and we don't know what Erica sensed or remembered from that.
And the House of Representatives?
And the House of Representatives, well, that's the other. How's the public reacting? If you follow Twitter feeds, there are pictures. It was dramatic and I think scary for tourists. Tourists are hitting the deck on the West Lawn. You can see agents with large guns, and so there was a sense of fear and mystery of what's going on. Shots fired, starting to get out on television, and Congress breathed a big sigh of relief. The immediate reaction was that this was a threat averted, and I don't know the exact time that standing ovation happened. It was perhaps an hour or 2 or 3 later, to thank the officers for protecting the Capitol.